Hi there. In this lesson, we're going to cover some JavaScript basics just to make sure that you understand some of the conventions that you'll see when looking at example applications built with Backbone.js. So what I want to start with is the concept of a immediately invoking function expression, also known as the self-executing anonymous function. And often you'll see with a Backbone application that all the code for Backbone has been wrapped inside of a function expression that gets executed immediately when the page loads. Now the reason that we do this is because in JavaScript it doesn't support the concept of public and private variables and methods. So to address this issue, JavaScript uses the concept of a closure, which encapsulates all the variables and methods inside of what's called a closure. Now, when you invoke this, it creates a context and it holds all the variables and functions inside of that, and it creates privacy. So if I try to output the variable for foo and see the value, it wouldn't show it to me. A simpler way of seeing this is I've created a function. Inside of that function, inside of that anonymous function, I've created a variable called foo and set it equal to bar, and then I immediately call that function. But most JavaScript developers will use the shorthand at the top to do the same thing that you would do at the bottom. Now, one other thing you'll see with Backbone applications is that they will actually pass in the jQuery object as an argument into this immediately invoking function expression. And this is so that the jQuery object will be accessible to my Backbone application inside of this function. So I'll pass in the jQuery object and then I assign it to the $sign. This is just to make sure that your code doesn't conflict with any other code that might be running on the page. If for some reason another bit of code changes the value of the $sign, it would no longer equal the jQuery object, which we need for Backbone. So this way we ensure that inside of our context we've established that the jQuery object is set correctly. So here's some example code written without it being self-invoking or immediately invoking, passing in the jQuery object into our function. And this leads us to the module pattern, which has been popularized by Douglas Crockford. And this is actually, I think, a clearer understanding of what's happening with this anonymous function. I'm actually assigning the returned value from this function to a variable called app. And so we wrap the entire function inside of those parentheses. That way it tells anybody who reads this code that we're not assigning the function to the variable app to the function, but we're setting the variable app equal to what's being returned from the function. And as you can see down at the bottom, we have console.log, and we're outputting what the value of foo is. Since it's a private variable, it's undefined, but I can actually go in and get the value of the name that's set in the return. I can also use my getter to get the value of foo, and I can also set a new value for the variable foo, and then if I do app.get and call that method again, I get the new value stack mob. So that's the module pattern, and you may see that in some of these Backbone applications as well, but I thought it was a nice tie-in to the concept of closures and immediately invoking function expressions. So now let's move on to the next section.